Okay, so the next step now is to have a little bit of fun with these compositions that we've set up. So how this works right now is this destinations logo. It is a composition because if you look at these little icons, they're both the same. This is our master composition, and this is what's called a nested composition. Now, it appears to be like a single flat layer down here, but it's not, because if I double click on it, what happens is it opens it up down here. Now you can see this is my master composition. This is my render queue, which I'm not really going to deal with right now. I'm just going to close that to minimize confusion. So here's the master, and here's the nested composition. And then again, you can see those three layers, which if I go up in here, you can see, oh yeah, those are the same layers, right? So that is the cool factor that we can start playing with in here. So now that I have access to those layers, I can start, um, adding stuff to it. So as a matter of fact, that's what I'd like to do right now. Is I'd like to add to this particular layer. Um, and because it's a composition, it's actually got multiple layers. So I'm going to take my playhead and bring it right back to the start of the composition. And then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to grab my horizontal type tool, which is like a horizontal type tool that you've used in pretty much any piece of software that you've ever played with that has a horizontal type tool. And of course, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click anywhere in the composition window. And you can see it created a new layer. And what I'm going to do now is type in here. And I don't hit your cap lock because it messes up your preview. Just what you can do is you can just hold down your shift key and type in travel and then the space and then Europe. Okay, so basically something that looks like that. So now that we've got that in there, if we click on that layer now, you can see it accepted that. So travel Europe is typed in there. Of course, now what we want to do is we want to go and play around with the fonts. So what we can do now is we can double click on that layer and it opens it up ready for editing. And what we're going to do is we're going to change the font. The font that we want to look for is something called the Myriad Pro. Actually, if we go in here and we just type in Myriad Pro, so we'll go Myriad, and you can see Myriad Pro comes up, and we'll just find a regular Myriad Pro, and that's good. That works. We'll change the font size. Currently, it's 36, a little big, so we'll go in here and enter a value of 24 and then click off that. So it's a little smaller now, which is great. And over here in the paragraph panel, we have, well, you're not going to see the paragraph panel because it's kind of hidden right now. It's down here. So what we're going to do is make sure it's in right aligned, and that'll be good to set that up. So we'll click right aligned over here. Now you see it's going to shift it over on the screen. Again, that's not a big issue because we can go in there and basically play around with that. So now what we'll do is we'll grab the selection tool, and what we'll do now is we'll take it and we'll drag it, basically where we want it to be. And we want to put it up kind of near this globe thing here. And of course, now what we want to do is we want to match colors to kind of get that all working the same way. So what we can do now is we can click on this eyedropper, and we're basically going to sample the colors of the logo that has the text in it already. So if we click that, you can see it automatically kind of sets that up. Okay, so I've got that all set. I should probably at this point go File, Save As, because again I've made some changes, and it's always a good idea to update the changes in here. So now I'm up to version 4, and that means I've got a series of backups that I can go back and recall to kind of get myself out of trouble, because you can get yourself into trouble in this program fairly easily. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we want to go back to the master composition. So you can see whatever we do to the nested composition automatically happens in the master composition. And what we want to do here now is we want to add some drop shadow. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to Effect on here, and because we've got this layer selected, we can go to Effect, and it's a layer, but it's really composition, which means it has a bunch of layers. As a matter of fact, it has 4 layers. So basically by doing this, what we can do is we can add one effect onto all those layers because all those layers are contained in that. So I'm going to go to Perspective, and then I'll find Drop Shadow, and there you go, bang, all of a sudden I got a drop shadow. Now notice up here Effects Controls comes into play, and now what we can do is we can kind of play around with that to make some adjustments to that, because that's just the drop shadow straight out of the can, so to speak. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Distance, and we'll change our distance to a value of 3, and that'll tighten it up a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll soften that up. Right now it's a very hard shadow, so if we put in a value of 4, you can see it just adds a very slight drop shadow to it, and it just kind of helps it to pop out a little bit from the background, which is, you know, again, kind of cool, right? And you know, while we're at it, still on that composition called Destinations Logo, what we want to do now is we want to go into our effects and presets here, and what we're going to do is we're going to add on another effect on here to kind of punch it up a little bit. So in that little search window up there, we'll type in, now you have to use the American spelling of the word color. It doesn't recognize the Canadian spelling, but there's this color emboss, which is the effect we want to use. So all I'm basically going to do is take this color emboss, and I'm just going to drag it, and I'm going to drop it right on that Destinations Logo layer. And what's cool is if you notice it when it comes on, you don't really notice it, but if you go to the little FX button here and you turn it off and on, you kind of see it almost adds like a kind of a cool 3D effect to it, which is really kind of nice. You don't notice it on the text as much, but you do notice it on that little globe thing, and that's perfect. That's kind of what we want to do. Okay, so now that we've done that, we obviously want to file save as, because again, we have made some major changes, and of course we want to go up here now, and we want to call this version 5, and that again we have multiple copies of that. Okay, so let's continue to work on the cool features we have in this program.